If you find compression to be complicated and mysterious, especially when it comes to compressing a vocal track, today I want to give you a simple 3-step formula to follow that will help you dial in just the right amount of compression on your next vocal mix. And at the end, I'll tell you where you can get a lot of tracks to practice your vocal mixing skills. Let's jump in. When you're starting out learning how to mix, you tend to fall into one of two camps when it comes to compression. Either you don't compress enough, so the vocal just feels amateur and kind of wimpy, or you compress too much and then all we hear is the compression. It's just this compression fest and there's a vocal in there somewhere. It can be super distracting. And then the bigger problem is you don't have a really good understanding of what compression is actually doing and how to use it in a mix. I remember I went to audio school and I can remember being in the classroom and there was a really smart professor explaining what a compressor does. All the different components, the theory behind it, and I was taking notes furiously, and by the end I thought, okay, I understand the words that you said. I have no clue why I would want to use that in music. What purpose does that possibly serve? So instead of, I'm thinking through the way I teach this stuff, because I've been doing this for 16 years, and I want to get better at teaching you. I want to help you get results faster. And so rather than focusing on explaining how compression works and all of that, let's just table that for a minute. And I just want to give you some specific compression settings to go try on a vocal mix like right now. Does that sound good? Okay, let's do it. For our demo today, I've got two different vocal tracks. The first is a very soft vocal.
At the end of the world.
The second is a aggressive vocal.
Nobody should live like this.
I love Vinny so much. Okay, so let's start with the quiet one. There are 3 steps I'm going to share with you. Follow right along with me if you want. Step 1 is grab an EQ. So I'm going to grab Pro EQ. And all we're going to do is add a high pass filter or a low cut filter, which is the better name, at 120 hertz. All right? That's it. Close that EQ. And we can open up the thing over here so you can see my list of plugins here on the left. We got a high pass filter. Next, grab your compressor. I recommend, even though I love analog style compressors, for learning compression, I think just the stock compressor in your DAW makes the most sense. So this is step 2. Add a compressor and specifically add it with these settings. Set the ratio to 4:1. Set the attack to 5 milliseconds. Set the release to 20 milliseconds. And the knee, you can leave that alone. Okay? That's it. That's step 2. Step 3, you're going to lower this threshold, which is telling it to basically start compressing, until we see roughly 5 to 10 dB of gain reduction. What is gain reduction? On most compressors, it'll show you some sort of downward meter that's showing how much it's turning the signal down. Anything less than 5 doesn't really, you don't hear it too much. More than 10 can be sometimes a problem. 5 to 10 is a good range to start. So I'm going to we can do this without listening. I'm going to turn the threshold down until I'm seeing this. There's going to be a little thing that's going to come down right here till it starts coming down to between like this 5 and 10 decibels here. Okay, here we go.
At the end of the world. At the end of the world.
Great, that hit minus 9.61. That feels delightful. Next, this is a kind of the corollary to step 3. Whenever you add compression to something and you've got that gain reduction happening, you need to make up for the volume you just lost. It just turned the vocal down by as much as 9 dB, so we need to turn the vocal back up. There will be a gain knob on your compressor, not the input gain, but typically it's the output gain, or it's technically makeup gain because we're making up for the volume that we lost. Don't worry about why. Just know compression, whenever it turns it down 5 to 10 dB, we want to turn it back up 5 to 10 dB. Now, we should be able to, when we bypass it, the goal should be for the compressor to be, the volume to be roughly the same before and after compression, the kind of average sensed felt volume. Let's check that.
At the end of the world. At the end of the world. At the end of the world.
Lovely. That's it. That feels like a well-compressed vocal. We can now hear his consonants a little bit better. It's like the vowel sounds are the ones that get mostly compressed, and then the consonant sounds get amplified. And that is the essence of compression on a vocal.
At the end of the world. The most violent storms brew.
That's perfect to me. All those little consonants come through, all those big, beautiful, round vowel sounds get turned down. Now, does this need EQ? Yep, I would put EQ after the compression. That's a story for another day. But the high-pass filter gets rid of any excessive low end, so the compressor doesn't go nuts. Then we compress, and then I'll do EQ later. All right, let's go through the same process again on another vocal. So here is, let me copy this EQ over. All right, so Vinny's voice has EQ. Now let's add compression. I'm going to copy that compressor over too, just because it's simpler. All right, I'm going to turn the threshold all the way back up. So this is my starting point, 4 to 1, 5, 20. Also, I'm going to turn the makeup gain down again, so we're back to where we started. Let's see what we got here.
Nobody should live like this. Turn off the noise. Nobody ought to live like this.
All right, so maxing out at around minus 10 dB. We can turn this up by maybe 8 or so, and it should sound nice and compressed.
Nobody should live like this. Turn off the noise. Nobody ought to live like this.
Versus,
Nobody should live like this. Nobody should live like this.
it's a little bit louder, so I'm going to turn that makeup gain down a little bit.
Nobody should live like this. Turn off the noise.
So good. Here's a very important point that I want to make. The amount of compression that you dial in, 5 to 10 is where I would start you. You may go lower, you may go higher. It depends on the content itself. So these two vocals really could not be more different. One is soft and beautiful.
At the end of the world.
The other is very aggressive and a little bit angry.
Nobody should live like this.
Your compression should typically match the aggression of the track itself. So I wouldn't go super aggressive on this ballad vocal. Let's hear what that sounds like.
At the end of the world. At the end of the world. At the end of the world. The most violent storms brew.
All those, now the consonants have overcorrected, they're way too loud, and it feels like I'm hearing the compression. It's not the worst because his voice is just so lovely, so like almost any compression sounds pretty good, but that's too much. If we undo it and go back to where we were, this feels a lot more natural.
At the end of the world.
But on the other track, on Vinny's voice, because he's singing so aggressively, we could probably go even more aggressive with the compression, maybe as much as 15 to 20 dB of gain reduction. Let's find out.
Nobody should live like this. Turn off the noise. Nobody ought to live like this. Turn off the noise. Nobody can live like this.
So it puts his voice in this almost squished place where it's just right here. It's just sitting at that volume. It's not going up or down almost at all. And that actually can be really great because this is an aggressive vocal. And I know because I know the song, there's guitars, big, heavy guitars, drums, and bass. So that vocal needs to sit even more. This sounds pretty good to me if we compare on and off.
Nobody should live like this. Nobody should live like this.
The other downside of really heavy compression is you can hear his room. Since the room is quiet and compression makes quiet things louder, we hear his room more. I'm hearing it in solo, but in the mix, I may or may not hear it, so just keep that in mind. But if you find yourself, here's the takeaway, going super aggressive, tons of compression on a very gentle vocal, more often than not, that's going to sound funky. So adjust your aggressiveness of compression based on what's there. If it's a gentle vocal, 5 to 10, closer to the 5 range of gain reduction is probably going to be fine. If it's more aggressive, you can go louder and more aggressive with more gain reduction happening. So here's the dirty little secret. You want to know what I just taught you? I taught you essentially the bones of how I compress anything, not just vocals. There's a few subtle differences, especially with attack and release, if this is going to be on drums or bass or guitars, but the general principle is exactly the same. So if you practice this on vocals, do that enough times, and soon this is going to feel effortless, and you're going to be able to compress anything more effortlessly. Speaking of practice, if you want to mix vocals like this, actually literally mix Vinny's vocal, plus a whole library of other multi-tracks that you can mix, you can just pull the vocals out and practice vocal mixing if you want, or you can mix the entire song. I've got all of that available for my Home Studio Corner VIP members. This membership exists to help you go from frustrated to prolific. From stuck with all the stupid software and hardware and technology stuff to releasing a bunch of great sounding music that you're proud of. Come take the VIP membership for a free test drive. Go to homestudiocorner.com/VIP. All right, that brings this video to an end. What did you learn? What did you like? Leave a comment below. And if you haven't seen this video on 19 mixing tips I wish I knew 20 years ago, you can watch it now and not have to wait 20 years. Thanks for watching. See ya.